I'm 28 now, but this happened when I was 23. At the time, I worked part-time at a dive shop in a small coastal town in Oregon. My name's Dylan, and back then, I was the kind of person who thought he was immune to fear, calm, rational, someone who didn't scare easily. I'd been diving since I was 16, so the ocean wasn't just familiar, it was comforting. I knew its moods, the flat grey mornings, the unpredictable swells, the sound of gulls that somehow always felt distant, even when they screamed overhead. That summer, our shop offered weekend dives for tourists, but on weekdays, I'd go out alone, or with my co-worker Nate to check equipment or scout new sites. We knew the coastline well, jagged cliffs, cold kelp forests, and coves that only appeared when the tide retreated. The day it happened wasn't supposed to be anything special. It was early August, the air cool even at noon. Nate was off sick, so I decided to take one of the rental boats out myself to test a new regulator. I'd done solo dives plenty of times before. I told our boss, Rick, I'd be back before sundown. It's strange. When I think about that day, I can still feel the quiet excitement of it. I had no idea that a routine test dive would turn into something I still can't explain. Something that left me unable to enter the ocean for almost 2 years. I left the harbor around 1 in the afternoon. The water was calm, almost glassy, and the fog had burned off early. The horizon was a clean, sharp line, the kind of perfect visibility divers dream about. I had my wetsuit half-zipped, the radio on low, and a thermos of coffee next to me. I motored about 2 miles out to a spot we called the Shelf. It was a flat area that suddenly dropped off into a steep underwater cliff, an eerie wall of dark blue that went down over 100 feet, perfect for testing depth gauges and regulators. When I arrived, I anchored, suited up and did my checks. Tank valve open, pressure at 3100 psi, mask defogged. I remember thinking how still it was. No wind, no sound, but the low hum of the motor cooling off. I even said aloud, couldn't ask for a better day, just to break the silence. The first 20 minutes were pure peace. The visibility was incredible. I drifted through the kelp forest, watching schools of perch shimmer past me like liquid mirrors. I tested the regulator, smooth airflow, and adjusted my buoyancy. Everything was normal. I decided to follow the shelf's edge, descending to about 60 feet. The light dimmed, and the water turned from turquoise to deep blue-green. The only sound was my breathing and the distant crackle of shrimp. I was relaxed, focused, until something small and sharp cut through that calm. It was a shape, just barely visible below me. At first I thought it was another diver, a dark silhouette about 20 feet below, moving slowly along the wall. I hovered, squinting, trying to make out the fins or bubbles, but there were none. That's what struck me as odd. No air bubbles, no glint of a tank, nothing. Just a human-like form gliding just above the drop-off, too deep to see clearly, but close enough that I was sure it was watching me. I waved, instinctively. No response. Maybe it was a free diver, I thought. We sometimes got those. People who trained without tanks, holding their breath for minutes at a time. But free divers rarely went alone, and never in full-body suits that dark. The shape lingered for a few seconds, then drifted deeper, until it vanished into the darkness below the ledge. I waited a moment longer, scanning the water, my chest tightening in that irrational way it does when you realize how alone you are underwater. Still, I told myself it was nothing. A shadow, a trick of the light. I'd been diving for years. I knew how easily the mind filled gaps in that shifting blue world. I checked my depth again, 62 feet. and forced myself to continue the test. But I kept glancing over my shoulder. Every few seconds, I thought I saw movement in the periphery. By the time I decided to ascend, the light above me looked different, dimmer somehow, even though it was still early afternoon. I surfaced and pulled off my mask. The air was colder now, and the horizon had turned hazy again. The fog was coming back fast. I climbed aboard, stripped off my gear, and sat for a while trying to shake off the unease. The ocean was calm, but there was a strange stillness to it. No gulls, no sound of waves hitting the hull, just silence. Then, as I was stowing my gear, I heard a splash, not far, maybe 30 feet off the stern. I turned, expecting to see a seal or drifting kelp, but there was nothing, just a ripple, another splash, closer. This time I saw it. A head. For a split second, a dark head broke the surface, then slipped back under. Human-shaped, but too smooth, too featureless. "Hey!" I called instinctively, though my voice cracked. "You okay out there?" No answer. I grabbed my binoculars and scanned the water. Nothing. I started the engine, thinking maybe someone had fallen off a kayak or paddleboard. But when I circled the area, there was no trace, no equipment, no bubbles, no body. Then I noticed something that froze me. The anchor line. It was stretched tight, tighter than it should have been, angling sharply into the water as if something below was pulling on it. I killed the engine and just stared, listening to the creak of the rope under tension. I wanted to believe it was caught on a rock. I wanted that so badly that I almost convinced myself. Then it jerked. Hard. The boat lurched, rocking violently. My coffee mug slid off the console. I stumbled, grabbing the rail, my heart pounding. The rope went slack again, then pulled once more, slow and steady, as if something or someone was testing it. I didn't think. I grabbed the knife from my belt and cut the line. The sound of the rope snapping free echoed across the still water. And then, nothing. I didn't wait. I gunned the engine and turned toward shore, but the fog was thick now, disorienting, white and shifting. My GPS blinked uncertainly. The radio hissed with static. That's when I saw it again. A shape in the water behind me, moving fast. At first I thought it was debris caught in the current, but it was keeping pace, gliding just under the surface, following the boat. "Jesus Christ," I muttered, pushing the throttle. The bow lifted as the engine strained. The shape disappeared for a few seconds, then surfaced, closer this time. I saw it clearly. A human form, but not right. The head tilted at an unnatural angle, limbs moving with a strange, slow rhythm. It wasn't swimming, it was drifting, as if the water itself was carrying it. And then, I swear on my life, it smiled. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was just the way the light hit its face. I'll never know, but I felt that smile in my bones. I reached for the radio, yelling into it, "Mayday, this is Delta 7, I need..." But the words cut out. Static, nothing but static. When I looked back again, it was gone. I didn't stop until I saw the breakwater appear through the fog. I almost crashed into the dock, jumped out still half in my wetsuit, and ran straight up to the shop. Rick saw my face and went pale. What the hell happened? I didn't have an answer. We went back out the next morning, Rick, me, and 2 of the Coast Guard guys, to retrieve the anchor and check the area. The water was calm again, like nothing had happened. They found the line about 100 yards from where I'd cut it. It wasn't caught on rock or coral. It was tangled around something, a piece of old fishing net, frayed and stiff with salt. Inside the net, caught between the cords, was a wetsuit. An old one, torn and sun-bleached. No tank, no gear, no body. Rick said it was probably trash, something that had drifted up from deeper water. But one of the Coast Guard guys, a younger guy, looked at it and said quietly, "Looks custom-made. Not a brand I've seen." I quit diving for a long time after that. When people asked why, I'd say I just lost interest. But the truth is, every time I looked at the ocean, I thought I saw that shape again, just under the surface waiting. It's been 5 years. I live inland now, in Portland. I still dream about the water sometimes. Not nightmares exactly, but scenes. I'm floating, weightless, and something below me is rising, just slow enough that I can't tell if it's moving or if I'm sinking. Last month, I got a call from Rick. The shop's still running. He told me the Coast Guard found another empty boat near the same spot where I'd been anchored that day. Gear still on board, motor idling, no one inside. He laughed when he said it, trying to make light of it. But I could hear something in his voice, that same unease I felt 5 years ago. Before we hung up, he said, "You know, funny thing. When they hauled it in, the anchor line was missing, cut clean." Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear that faint creak of rope under tension, like something still pulling, waiting.